Which was two different panes all uploaded. How bad was it? Tech support, nothing. So you still enjoying your position? We are tech support, man. Wherever we go. Sorry. But
I believe is the deficit is that there people think that this is just a trend when this is real life, right? This is not a trend. Trends come and go. Trends live and die. This is something that is important that we have to continue. We educate ourselves to be able to make sure we carry out the work that God has given us for such a time as this, for such a time as this, right? For such a time as this. So don't just be here, right? Actually maximize this opportunity. Get to know somebody else that's here. Listen, right? Use your voice. There's a sign up sheet over there in the front area. You have the opportunity to be able to share your story. If you have been alive, right, when these things were going on in the 50s and you to this space. There are bathrooms over here, right? To my left and to your right. And so I know y'all see that food behind us. I'm here to give directions. Amen.
we're having trouble connecting to the Wi-Fi. So I would just make that ask for everyone to help us out.
So we represented plaintiffs in DeSoto County, the DeSoto County chapter of the NAACP, the Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated, Mr. Robert Tipton, Mr. Harold Harris. Went through a redistricting process in 2022 that drew the Board of Supervisors as well as the same districts for the official same maps for the districts. And in Southaven County,
that means that if the legislature is not going to have a hearing, the community will. And that's why we're here today, because the community wants to make its voice heard, to make sure that the legislature hears why we need these types of protections. And so what we're going to do here today is that we are going to hear from members of the community about your experiences with voting in DeSoto County or in Mississippi, wherever you're from. We're going to hear from members of the community about your experiences with barriers to voting. We're going to hear about your experiences, whether it's long lines or difficulties casting an absentee ballot, difficulties registering to vote, polling location changes at the last minute without any notice, ballot shortages at the polling place, issues with poll workers. All of these types of things are things that we want to hear from you. And we'll also hear from the community about the importance for representation, the importance of representation at every level of government for the communities that you live in. And so everyone should have a piece of paper with them. If you don't, raise your hand and we'll get you the sheet of paper. It says Community Testimony Guide. If you don't have that, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll get you one of those sheets. Okay. Where did Monica go? Oh, Monica, did we run out of sheets? Okay, well, if we ran out of sheets, but if you don't have one, share with a neighbor, please. And hopefully everyone will be able to follow along. Basically what this sheet is a few guidelines, a few suggestions for you to be able to shape your testimony here tonight. If you haven't already signed up, you can feel free to sign up. We have a sign-up sheet out there. You can also just come to me and say, hey, testimony, can I get on the list? And we'll make sure that you're heard. So what do you say? What do you want to get up here and say when you provide testimony? These are some suggestions for what you can say. So first, introduce yourself. Your name, where you're from, why are you here? Then you can talk about your experience with voting in Mississippi. Have you or someone you know experienced barriers to voting? Have you experienced polling location changes or long lines? Of your community struggle to participate in the political process. This is really lived experience. Then you can talk about your community. What makes your community unique? You can describe your community, the types of people who live in your community, the type of neighborhood that you live in. What are the issues that matter to people in your community, and why is it important that your community is represented by people who value those issues, who fight for those issues? Do you feel that your community has meaningful representation at any level of government, whether it's local, state, or federal? And then talk more about that representation. Have you seen the ways that districts are drawn divide your communities in a way that might make the vote less effectual, less powerful? Why does all of this matter? Do voting rights affect your family, your neighbors, in future generations? What would a stronger democracy in Mississippi look like? And this is another important part. We're not only here to talk about the problems, we're here to talk about the solutions as well. And what we need to hear is we can't just have these conversations with a small group of people in Jackson or in Washington, D.C. about what our solutions should be. We need to hear from community members about what you believe the solutions are to the problems that our democracy is facing. And so what changes would you like to see made, whether they're by the Mississippi legislature, your representatives in Congress, or your representatives at the Board of Supervisors? What protections do you think that voters here in Mississippi need? And what do you hope would be included in a Mississippi State Voting Rights Act? What do you hope that that type of legislation would accomplish? And I want to remind people here, you are speaking to everyone here in this room, but you're also speaking when you're providing testimony to your leaders in Jackson and your leaders in Washington, D.C. That's who your audience is. The people who are making policy, those are your audience. And the reason that I say that is because we are going to be taking down the testimony. There's a court reporter over there by the door. Thank you for being here, who is transcribing testimony here today. And we have the testimony being recorded as well. The reason that we're doing that is because we want to create a public record. We want to create a record of all of the experiences that folks in here will discuss tonight. We want to create a record of the ideas that you have for solutions. We want to create a record of what you believe your community needs, because that record we can then take to Jackson and submit it alongside a Mississippi State Voting Rights Act. And we can say, this is why we need this type of legislation, because we have testimony from community member after community member saying that these are the protections we need. We can take that record and we can submit it with the congressional record in Washington, D.C. When the next Congress comes into session and debates a new Voting Rights Act, this testimony that we provided tonight, part of that congressional record to support new federal legislation. And so this is not only a practice in talking about these ideas, talking about these experiences, this testimony will have real, tangible impact on our ability to advocate for voting rights in Mississippi and across the country. And so let me pause there. I know I just went through a lot, but before we go to the actual testimony, does anyone have any questions about testimony? Does anyone want to raise your hand and say, hey, I want to provide testimony, put me on the list? We can put you on the list. If not, don't worry. I will subtly pressure some folks to do it anyway. Any questions from anyone in the group? All right. So I'll talk through the format really quickly, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So the format is that folks will come up. Some people have already registered. Some people registered here today. I will call individuals up to present their testimony. They'll sit right here in the seat right here. And every speaker will have between 3 to 5 minutes to speak and present their testimony. You'll have a microphone here. So we start wrapping up, and then we will move on to the next speaker. We also have who is also co-counsel on the DeSoto County case, incredible attorney, and will be providing expert testimony later in the program about state voting rights acts and federal legislation as well. And she'll take questions from the group as well. And then we'll move into another segment of community testimony right after that. All right. All right, I'll invite Ms.
Thank all of you for the opportunity to be able to share tonight. My name is Lovey West, and I reside on Boulevard, Olive Branch, Mississippi. I want to share just a little about my I come from my lived experience. I was born and grew up in Holmes County, Mississippi. Over in the Delta part. One of the poorest counties then, and one of the poorest counties now. where we live, to make decisions about whether or not we had employment, and all of those factors, healthcare, experience, scarred for life. And many others have been scarred for life because we were denied. When I hear phrases like "Make America Great Again," it sends chills up my spine because I know he talked to the ones that held us back with economic opportunities and health care and so forth. But I move on to the present, and I look around and I think about my representation. I am so proud to be able to say that Senator Theresa Isom is my representative. That is the impact of redistricting. Without it being allowed the opportunity to have someone to represent me, I would have still been in the same situation where I would not have a voice in Jackson as a senator. Never did I have the opportunity to sit in a room and have a conversation with my representative prior to this because he was not interested. He didn't care enough to have a conversation with me about what was important to me, my livelihood. He didn't care about, and even we look at Southaven County that have some of the best school systems in some parts. It is not equal when you compare that to Horn Lake and many of the other areas that are densely black property. And so when I move into the future, and I think about what this means to take me back, where the school system for the next generations are not equal. What it means to take us back, where we don't have good care in our community. Mississippi now has the highest mortality rate in the country. And this is because we do not have a voice as African American, as black and brown. We do not have a voice that says that it's matters, that we need good health care for our mothers, for our children, and for our families. Without a voice, we will continue to not thrive as we could. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lovely West. That was incredibly powerful testimony. We really appreciate you. And I'm sorry that I didn't give you a heads up that I was going to call on you first. But we really appreciate you. Next, we're going to call up David Ray Smith Jr. Let's
Hello, everyone. My name is David Ray Smith. I attended Lake Cormorant High School out of DeSoto. I graduated there in 2021. I'm 6 and I previously attended before last. But I'm here today to talk about DeSoto County's new population. Just wanted to like a call to action. I have been noticing for years that the county has drastically changed the demographic, especially where I grew up near Walls and Lake Cormorant. I've noticed that the schools have turned mostly all black. Horn Lake High School was pretty much the same way when I was in high school, and now I'm seeing the same in Olive Branch, Southaven. It just goes to show that there will always be new maps needed to be drawn in DeSoto County. And so with the Calais decision, it makes it harder to support the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to justify, oh, it's racial discrimination. So it's important that in DeSoto County, I think that young people, everyone get civically involved because we're in suburbia And I think it is harder to mobilize people in the suburbs. I mean, people are working, commuting to Memphis mostly and coming back home. I don't really see many people outside in the more suburban part of DeSoto County, whether it's we're in a more older part near the state line. And I saw the first activism in Southaven with the XAI. That's when I saw Keyshawn Pearson, environmental justice advocate. That's the first time, and I'm 24 years old, I've ever seen any type of activism in DeSoto County, period. And I thought that was remarkable. And I believe that this can be a stepping stone to activism in DeSoto County and not just basing politics off of Memphis and then Mississippi proper. So I think that I'm optimistic about the future, but I just want more people to be involved. Hence, I'm like the youngest one in the room. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. I didn't realize that you were 24. You are. You make me feel old. All right. Let me pull up my list again. Next on our list is Miss Shantae Walton. Shantae Walton. Is Miss Shantae in the room? Or she might not be here yet. All right, we'll put her down on the list, and when she gets here, we'll call her up. Next on the list is Miss Diane Black.
Good evening. I have lived in Mississippi all of my life, and I live in Olive Branch, Mississippi. And I'm the first Black woman to run and win a major party primary twice. And also, I was the highest vote getter in DeSoto County during the last congressional race. I was first, Vice President Kamala Harris was second, and Joe Biden was the third vote getter. Okay, before I started running for office, I worked polls on several elections before running for several offices. One thing I noticed is that we would run out of ballots at certain polling locations. And there was an older citizen that was purged from the voters roll because of their age and not by their voter record. And the reason I know this because they were my relatives. They were in their 90s, and one was just a little over 100, and she just died last year. She was 110 when she died, but she was purged from the voter roll way before time. And another thing, I called the commissioner and asked why did she take them off the voters roll, and her response was, I thought they were all dead. So Mississippi need a better way to purge their voters roll. So here in Mississippi, we have illegal voter roll purging. Mississippi need a voting rights act, one that would include automatic voters registration for eligible citizens, same-day voters registrations, along with 2 weeks of early voting. Purging the voter roll should require that all commissioners get proof of non-residence and check death certificates before removing anyone from the voters roll. Thank you for allowing me to express myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Diane Black. Very much appreciate you being here and providing testimony. Thank you. Okay, next on our list, I have Miss Nellie Sanders. I invite you to come up and provide testimony, please.
everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Nellie Pettis Sanders. I was born in Oxford, Mississippi. Okay. I'm Nellie Pettis Sanders. Can you hear me now? I'm Nellie Pettis Sanders. I grew up I was born and raised in Oxford, Mississippi. Ended up marrying a soldier, migrated, and ended up in Hernando, Mississippi to this day. But I say that to say, my father, Theodore Pettis, was a strong, go there, because he knew the struggle. So he taught us, no matter what, you will not stay in my house if you do not go to vote. When you become 18 years old, you have to vote. And that's something we have to install in the future generation. We all need to be responsible and go out there and vote. Now, going back to my past, I've been in school district. I had all, the opportunity as opposed to schools that were surrounding us, like baseball or going down towards other areas around the area. But like I say, for the ones who didn't have the best school system, who didn't have all the things they needed and stuff. So that's why we need to stay on key and continue to get prepared to go vote and make sure that we get our voting rights activated and keep them going forward instead of going backwards. We don't want to go back. We want to continue to move forward as believers now. Once again, as I said, having being in Oxford there and stuff and moving all over the country because my husband was military. We travel a lot, but we still came back home to Mississippi and stuff. And Mississippi is a great state. It's just that the people here, we got to start realizing that we have to get up and do what we need to do. We got to stand for our rights, for not only for the future, but for ourselves now. Because this is really serious. I'm a nurse also, and I see so much of what the big, beautiful bill they're talking about. We haven't seen the effects of that yet until December. That's when you see it. You see all these changes coming forward. And if you don't have health care, you can't survive. You got to have good health care. And that's something we want to support too and stuff. And all of that falls in line with when we go to the poll in November and when we go vote. Because if we get the Voting Rights Act and get all of that passed stuff, we don't vote, we're still not doing our part. So we need to encourage one another to go out there and vote and do the right thing and stuff. No one can tell you which way to vote, but you can see, as I said, you can see pretty much your idea of who you want to vote for if you want to see democracy stay alive in this country. And that's one thing we want to always push for, democracy for all the people, for our grands, our great-grands, all over. So once again, I'd just like to say, let's stay on key, Mississippi, and let's not give up, because the battle is not over yet. And also, I'd like to say, I'm a Christian. I was born and raised in the church all my life, and I believe. I get on, I pray. But once we pray, y'all, it's time we get up and start moving. You got to start moving. When you come off of the prayer, it's time to get up and get the moving. So we need to be active. Martin Luther King didn't just stay in the church. He got out there, and we got to keep moving. And so Mississippi, you know what? This is our chance. Let's be positive. Scott, there's a chance that we can put him in there if we would get up and go vote, and if we can get our young generation to move forward and support him. So once again, I want to thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to speak, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mary Sanders. Really appreciate your testimony and being here tonight. I see that the food has been set up back there, and I see some of y'all looking back there. And so I don't want to keep folks from the food. We'll do one more piece of testimony, then we'll take a quick pause for about 5 minutes so that folks can get up, grab a box, and then come back to your tables, and then we'll restart our testimony after that. And so the last person for this segment that I'd like to call up is Mr. Chris Sanders.
everyone. My name is Chris Sanders, and I'm from New Orleans. And I just want to say, with this new bill that they're trying to pass or whatever, I feel like it's starting for something else. Basically, to go towards the 14th Amendment, to take us back to those days. And I mean, I haven't had some of the experiences that some of y'all have had. And some of you have had, but with the little experiences that I had, no. So that's all I have to say. And thank y'all.
You caught yourself. I saw that. All right. Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate you. All right. At this point, we'll take a quick break so that folks can get up, grab a box to eat, and sit back down at their tables, and then we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
It's a wireless internet box. He got the box.
suppression bill. So there's creativity, there's perseverance, and there's an ability to mobilize around something that's positive, fighting for something that's positive and affirmative and that will move the ball forward rather than just fighting against bad of the Mississippi legislation. So, yeah, I think the South really, as always, provides inspiration for their sister states and for other state VRA campaigns. The ability to use a piece of legislation like this as a mobilizing tool to get people excited about voting, lobbying days that emphasize the intersection of voting and all other issues that are important to the community, and virtual and in-person community teach-ins. There's a lot that can be done around continuing to mobilize and continuing to advance an affirmative vision of what voting rights can look like here in Mississippi.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Let's give Brenda a round of applause. Brenda has a tremendous amount of experience working on voting rights litigation and policy across the country. And so I want to give folks an opportunity to ask questions as well, based on anything that Brenda might have testified about just now, or more generally about questions that might be on your mind about voting, election, democracy in Mississippi. And so I'll open the floor right now, and I can bring you the mic if you have a question. I see a question right here. If you could say your name, please, before you ask a question, then ask a question.
Okay, Deborah Williams. My question is about the issue of intent. I know that they didn't gut that piece of the Second Amendment, but I want to understand it better and why the goal to get to that is so very high.
Yeah, no, that's a really important question. The whole reason why Congress amended the Voting Rights Act back in 1982 was because the Supreme Court even then was trying to make it harder to win those cases by saying you couldn't just prove that your vote was diluted by the at-large system or by the map that was adopted. You had to prove that there was evil in the hearts of the people who enacted the legislation, and somehow or another, federal courts don't like to find that there was hearts of legislators passed these things. And so the whole point of the amendments back in 1982 was to say you could prove a voting rights case without having to get into the intent for bad, good, or indifferent. If you could prove it had an effect, out, like, you know, we saw that, oh, but we really think Congress actually meant when they did that you still had to prove intent. I mean, it's just really indefensible on any kind of logical grounds. And so one of the things that these state voting rights acts are trying to do is to restore a standard that is that makes more sense, that makes it realistic to be able to prove that your vote has been diluted without having to have this finding that somebody had evil in their hearts. And so that's part of the impetus behind these acts.
Any more? Okay, I see a hand over here.
My name is Ken Beasley, and I'd like to just ask another question about the Voting Rights Act bill that was introduced for the state of Mississippi that didn't go anywhere. If it were ever approved, how would the groups that would, I guess, review all proposed change, and how would that structure? What I don't know what feel. What can you maybe delve a little bit more into it? What kind controls would be in place to make sure that they did the right thing. Because, you know, basically we had a one-party system in the legislature.
Okay. I'll go next time.
Is a nonpartisan mission that would be, appointed from among a group of eligible candidates who would be vetted by this commission, which would have representatives of organizations that have worked for voting rights in Mississippi. So the representation on this commission would actually be chosen by groups that are certified by the state as having been involved in advancing education about voting rights and the right to vote. And so that's the way we're trying to guard against it being, captured by the same forces that have been keeping us where we are on voting rights. If you have anything to add to that, Amir, in terms of the legislation, please chime in.
No, I think that's exactly right. So we have another question over here. I'm getting my workout today.
My name is Robert Walker. How is the Supreme Court decision going to affect the redistricting that just happened in DeSoto County? The case you all just won.
All right, I'll bring it back to Brenda.
Well, unfortunately, as we've had to report, we didn't win the case. We did not win the case. The judge ruled against us based on the Supreme Court decision that came down in between the time we tried it and the time that he decided it. And so that's one of the reasons we're looking for other handles on how to make progress on voting rights in Mississippi. And, I should also mention, you probably saw that the new judicial districts in Southaven are being challenged by advisors who claims that they are unduly race conscious. And so we're going to be looking to many of the same folks who were involved with us in the county supervisor case to try to come in and have something to say in court about that as well. So yeah, the fight goes on. The fight goes on.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. Do we have any other questions?
Oh, sorry. I'll make an exception. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Hill, and everyone that grew up I currently live in Mississippi. I voted in Memphis and in Mississippi. And I've noticed over the years that now when you vote polls, ask you what party are you with? Only give you a ballot that only listed, and I've noticed that changed previously. Before, you would have a ballot that had all of the parties listed on it, all of the candidates listed on it, no matter what their party was. Is that something that, I don't know if this is just because we're in a small town in Mississippi, or this is everywhere now, where they just give you a ballot with your party's candidates on it.
Well, my understanding is that you're choose primary you could want to vote in. So if that's not what's happening when that's a problem. That's not how it's supposed to run it.
This will actually be the last question.
I have a question. Now, they're saying that they intentionally wrong. Now, as a legislator, I say intentionally do these because they're not equally divided by party. Because we have a redistricting committee now that has 4 Democrats and 7 or 8 Republicans. So that is intentionally. when you have a group like that trying to do a map and you wanna, not intentionally make one the other or whatever. So I think y'all need to know that too. When we be making these committees up, these committees are not done equally.
Do you want to respond?
I agree.
Yeah, and I think, I think the point that you're making is that you don't need to get into the hearts and minds of these legislators to understand what's really going on. You can just see what they did and the effect of what they did. And it's the same with how the lines are drawn. It's the same with when you look at a particular map and you see how they're dividing communities, how they're packing certain districts, cracking certain communities to span multiple districts. It's clear what they're trying to do. It's not like they can't see where black folks in Mississippi live, or that they don't know where black folks in Mississippi live, right? And so, right, exactly. So we know what they're doing. What the Supreme Court has done with this lawsuit, with this decision, is require an unattainable, in most circumstances, unattainable level of evidence that requires us to try to get inside the hearts and minds of these legislators, which, they know the script. They know what they have to say to withstand scrutiny now, because the Supreme Court has told them. The Supreme Court has said you could just say, I'm doing for racial reasons, but we all know the reality in Mississippi and across the South. And so when saying, well, we're just trying to maximize our own party's advantage, what they're saying is we are discriminating against folks. And so I think that's an important point to remember. And that's also why we keep saying that just because this court didn't agree that we didn't make out a Section 2 claim under this, that's not discrimination. There is discrimination. Figure out now, as a community coalition, how to combat that discrimination. That we can start trying to fight back against what's going on. And so I really appreciate Attorney Brenda Wright for her testimony. Thank you all for your really great, insightful questions. Please join me in giving a round of applause. To provide testimony today. No. All right. We'll move on to TK Gaines. Oh, Miss, I'm sorry. Can we get a round of applause for TK Gaines?
This is something different this is addressed to someone different, other than the people in this room right now. Elected lawmakers and those living a comfort without the cares that others have been forced to. And I am a proud Mississippian who is not proud of those things done Christ, hindering the voting rights of some, thought of as inferior, will in the end not only hurt those you consider and a lower caliber.
and causing people to struggle unnecessarily more and social problems that already exist and will continue to grow at a higher rate within our own coded spaces. You see, we and want to succeed, thrive, and survive. Strokes, alcoholism, and pedophilia does not discriminate, and they come every single regardless of sex, religious affiliation, or socio-economic. So withhold representation is damning, a tragedy, hate crime, affair, subjecting vulnerable people to deadly shortening spans, limiting access to needed caps on Medicaid and Medicare, and failing to address the mortality rate who are pregnant, a penalty. And with that,
Importance position the different adequately level of government, whether it's in DC. And so next on the list we have Ms. Carol.
Good evening. My name's Carol. I live in Red Banks, which is a really rural area. I grew up in the Mississippi Delta, so I have had lots of experience with some of the things that people have been talking about. My background is I went to school, I got a master's degree. Mississippi said they couldn't hire me because they didn't want to pay me the extra $1,000 a year. So I went to Texas and I lived there for 30 years, came back to Mississippi, went to go register to vote. I was getting my driver's license and I checked the little box, said, yes, I was going to register to vote. I went to vote and lo and behold, I was not registered. So I had to go to the Chancery clerk. I did not get to vote in the governor's race that year. So the next year I go to vote in the primary. And this man sees me come in and he looks at me and he says, the Republican table is over there. I said, I know that. And I did not go to the Republican table. So once I got back to Mississippi, I have joined the League of Women Voters. I have gone to protests for No Kings. I have joined the North Mississippi Democratic Women. And I do call our legislators with 5 calls about every week. I think they know me. So why I'm here today is that voter suppression is everywhere. And we have to bring that forward to people so that they know. And with this SHIELD Act, people to check, see, and don't wait till that. The register to vote is October 5th. So we make sure people who are registered are ready to vote. And when call in Marshall County, she's people they just don't vote. So we got to get out. Get someone who is going to represent you. And my area, there are so many rural people. Affordability is the big and our U.S. representatives that they seem to be kowtowing to.
To be a poll watcher, a poll voter, volunteer.
And participate in the political process. And that was a beautiful thing. But over the last, you can count it 10 to 15 years, you can see how the powers that be want to dilute the power that we have. So with every vote, with every action, with every lawsuit, with every oppressive act that's being done, it just ignites in me the opportunity to do something different, to do something more, to want to do something more. So like the 24-year-old in the back, you know, I do want to see this county change. And I did so much, even a few years ago, I not just participating in voting, poll watching, poll voting was enough for me. I also got the courage to run for a local office, even for a state office. Was successful at some, but still, to see the process work and see how you can get your voice out there, make it an attempt to change the state and do good, do your good for this state, for this county. Again, I think that's a beautiful thing. Still encouraged, still want to see people do well, still want to see people get over that mark. What I wanted to say is being 58 years old, I remember the days when I grew up in country Mississippi and my grandfather was a sharecropper. I remember the struggles that they had, even just as a young boy, raising their family, and the amount of effort and energy that they had to put in just to make it even at that time. You know, the opportunities that are afforded to folks who have to struggle is just made that much more harder when people in power take the rights away, take the opportunities away, and don't provide any fair representation in doing those things. It motivates me because I used to see my folks participate in strikes. I used to see them participate in protests. I used to see them participate in equal rights even back in the early 80s. And today is no different, where we have to do the same. We have to participate. I'm not sure if it's being said, but in DeSoto County, there's somewhat more than 200,000 people in DeSoto County. In most of the elections, it's very hard to get people more than 30% to vote. 30% out of 200,000 people is just 70,000 people. So that's very few people who determine what's going to happen with the schools, with the laws, with the judgments, with other people that are put into place here. So there's lots of work that's yet to be done. There's lots of work that needs to be done. I'm here just to be a part of the solution and make this state, make this county, make my area better for the future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chandler. We appreciate you being here and providing testimony tonight. I am going to go down our list of speakers. Several of these folks I have not been able to confirm are here, so I'm just going to make sure by saying their names that if they've come in a little later, that they have the opportunity to testify. Mr. Timothy Brown, Mr. Cameron Sandifer, Curtis Stuckey, Janine Cars. Would you like to provide testimony, Ms. Cars? Okay. If you will do, okay. Thank you. Not to mention that providing testimony here at the table outside that will and collect that and make that part of the public record that we're creating here tonight, so that your testimony can still support the advocacy efforts. Let's see. on this list that I haven't been able to confirm. Okay, and then on this list, I have to wrap up our testimony, Mr. Rd.
Bring me some notes up here. I got so much to talk about. All right, good evening, everybody. I am Jay. I've been here that long, but I moved from the central part of the state. And let me say that I graduated in Eupora in Webster County. I was a recipient of the Voters' Rights Act. I was elected into office. There's a city council there in Eupora for 8 years, and then also went to court with the county supervisors, and then won 1964. So I've been at and it's so purpose. It does. It was to they let me worked out. In this county, we're in the stores, Walmart, Sam's. We're in these restaurants. We're shopping. You go look now, and half the people in these restaurants are African Black Americans spending their money. Look at the revenue in the county, how it has improved since this 30-40% of blacks have moved here because we spend money. You all know that. But yet, when that money goes out there to the courthouse, we have nobody there to decide where it's to be spent. It makes a difference when we're there. And when you're there, when you're not there, let me tell you from experience, you're not counted. You're not going to be thought of. Somebody has to be sitting there to say something. We were talking about the Supreme Court. Conjure Jackson, I love her. She's fighting for us, y'all. But she's pretty much by herself, but she always gives that other side. She's fighting and she continued to fight, even fighting Clarence Thomas. I mean, she's fighting him. And that's one thing I think I asked the mayor at the last meeting that we held, the Supreme Court. Where in the Constitution does it say that the Supreme Court can change law? Where is this? Can anybody tell me where in the Constitution that's written that they can change law? They can gut law. I think that's where we ought to go from. The Supreme Court. How can they change law? The legislature, the legislative branch, these people right here, they write laws. not the Supreme Court. They're supposed to study, interpret, rule, not go in there and change it because that's the way they feel. And that's the way I feel about that. Again, my past experiences was which led me here to DeSoto County. When I moved here, my wife and she retired from the school system, and I was an all-state agent at this time. And so we just retired and moved up here and went out to the courthouse out there to change our taxes and get our tags for our car here. And I went in there, I couldn't believe it. I didn't see no black people. I say, what? Where am I? I said, what? And then I went to church on Sunday. I asked my pastor, I said, Pastor Lee, what's wrong with these black people up here? Because where we came from, we changed things. And today, there's still a black supervisor there. There's a black election commissioner. And in the city of Upo, we have a black mayor with 2 black aldermen. It changed, because I was the first. I did the redistricting, sitting there. I learned how to do it by the lawyers. My good friend Rob McDuff died in Jackson. He taught me that. And I have sat there and drawn those maps. I had someone to ask me the other day, and to the most part, y'all, I don't mind if people don't understand, but ask the question so you can understand. This person said to me, how do we draw maps? How do we draw maps for a certain race? How are they gonna draw maps for a black? For a black? I looked at him. I say, how do they draw these other maps for all white? He turned. He said, "Oh, okay, I see what you mean." So what's the problem here? And let me say this before I go. And that's one of the main things I want to say it real fast, that we need to understand what redistricting is. A lot of people don't know it. Everyone does not know what happens in it. And I had to show him, they draw a map, they have the fixture, and they know what they're putting there. They know that it's 5 white dudes out there, 60, 70%. They know that. And they're going to try to keep it like that. And again, we won the case, y'all. The judge just didn't move, but we won the case. That's all I so I got sit here for a while because I court Benny Thompson back in 2001. I was on that case. I was playing for that case to read all this when we lost one representative, congressman. Yeah. But I'm done, y'all. Thank you. I hope I didn't talk too much. All right.
Y'all can see why I asked him to go. I did. Monica just told me that I miss one person, and I didn't see your sign up, and so I apologize. But Ms. Pat Brady, would you like to testify? Sorry about that. I didn't see your name.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Okay, I'm Pat Brady. I live here in Olive Branch, Mississippi. I get joy in serving because I'm from Winona, Mississippi, and that is where Fannie Lou Hamer was terrorized in 1963. I was 3 months old. So when I was old enough to understand what really went on, that jail cell was less than a mile from where I grew up. So I know that by all means, I have to work. I have to register first-time voters. I have to be motivated and mobilized, and I have to continue to encourage, no matter how it look. I'm not afraid to serve. I do work in my community as much as possible. I'm very concerned about my children and my grandchildren's future, your children and grandchildren, and even you. My mom is 95 years old. She lives in Winona, Mississippi. And when I was growing up, my mother worked elections. I didn't understand exactly what she was doing then, but as an adult, when I went to Russ College and Ida B. Wells Museum there, and as I have traveled across not just the United States, but across the world to see how people are being treated, it it gives me energy and motivation to say, okay, I got to make a difference. I'm not just here to live. I'm here to serve. And I just thank God for the opportunity. And I thank God for you all that are serving, that are boots on the ground, that's doing the work. We just have to continue to encourage our families when we're having lunch or breakfast or dinner. It's okay. Children work in the not school system, but able to register at least 100 first time. When I really get the energy, I go to a barbershop and they'll allow me to sit out there and register vote. I'm really not afraid. So you can't be afraid. You got to keep on keeping on. You got to just encouraging the people that you are around, in your job, in your church, wherever you are. Sometimes I'm at the mall, and if I see somebody that's young and they look like they may not be registered, I ask them. And not just in Mississippi, where if they say they're from Arkansas, I pull it up on my phone and find that registration and say, hey, do this. So, and then I know enough people in Mississippi when I'm in one county, I can email those things to lawyers that I know that will send it to the circuit clerk. So we have to be mobilized. And once we get these people registered, gas is so high, y'all. Can you imagine if it gets any higher, they're going to use that as an excuse. So we got to get them there, which means we have to make sacrifices. So we have to mobilize with our cars and our trucks and our buses and whatever it is that we have. So again, I thank you. And I thank each one of you all. And thank you, State Senator, for sending me the text. I really supposed to be at Bible school tonight, but I came on over because I know how important it is. So safe travels and God bless each of you.
Thank you so much, Rady. We appreciate you being with us here tonight. And it's a fitting way to conclude our community public testimony portion of the night. Can we please give everyone a round of applause who testified? I know it's not easy to get up here and speak in front of a microphone, and so it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that, to be able to provide testimony about your own experiences. And so we really, really appreciate everyone who came up and testified. Again, I'll remind folks, if you didn't come up and testify tonight, you can submit your written testimony. We have those forms out at the table next to the elevator. And so please, if you have a story to tell, if you have wishes and desires for our democracy and how our democracy should look like in Mississippi, then please fill out that form and we'll include that as part of the public record. At this stage, what I'd like to do, we're grateful to be joined by our legislators here today. And I wish we had more. I wish we could have had every single one of our legislators here tonight. But we do have several of this community's representatives here tonight. And I want to give them an opportunity to respond to the testimony that was provided here tonight. So I'll invite Senator Theresa Isom, Senate District 2, to provide the legislator's response.
Well, good evening, everyone. And thank you all for being here. I'm truly grateful to each of you for coming out, saying a few words. So important because from running this race on last year, there were a lot of irregularities. There were things that came up. People would call and say what was going on at the polls. So now that we have these laws that have been enacted, it's probably going to get. So we need you all to come out and vote. I need you to come out and vote. On April 3rd, session was going to be over on April 5th. A committee went in to the Rules Committee, and they made a decision that they were going to remove my seat on that day. That didn't happen with God's grace. So now that the council decision came down on April 29th, the governor said, we're going to have special session. On tomorrow, I was supposed to be in Nashville, but this afternoon, I got a call that says we're going back in session on tomorrow. So, y'all, the games are being played. We're supposed to be there at 3 o'clock tomorrow. The announcement was made at 2:30. So it's about what they want and who they want. There are 52 senators. There's only 18 of us that are Democrats. We have to be strong. We have to vote so that we're voting for you all as our people. I get a lot of phone calls, a lot of phone calls. I listen. I respond to emails. My heart be so full sometimes. It's really hard, but I care. I'm a nurse by trade, so I have a caring heart. What I hear when I hear about the children that are being mistreated, I hear about the elderly that don't have enough income. I hear about people that can't get their medicines and about people that having problems with housing. That fight has been here for a long time. But we have got to stay together, vote together. We have candidates in the room. We'll get them to stand. That's Cliff Johnson. He's a civil rights attorney. He has worked hard for us as a people. The things that's going down right now in Sanatobia and also down at when talking about, the kids being killed. How many Black people do you know gonna hang themselves? We don't normally commit suicide. I am a mental health nurse as well. That's just not one of our traits or things that we do. But it is so many young Black people that are being hung and they are putting it down as suicide. We have got to keep fighting, got to be strong enough to say no more. No more. I love my grandkids and I want to see them become adults. The future that's being presented right now, because the way things are being changed, they won't have the same opportunity that I've had as a lady coming up. I have been for many times the only Black nurse that held the position as a nursing officer or as the director of the nursing school or as the house supervisor. So I'm the only one. So my boss told me, stop fighting, because I fought the governor of the state of Tennessee. I don't mind fighting. I don't mind. And I'm going to continue to fight. Y'all help us. The way you can help, come out to vote. Get your people out to vote. Bring somebody with you. On Sunday, we did voter registration. We asked, I know everybody's not registered, but I don't know why people are so afraid. In 2024, many of you may have heard, I registered 298 people when Kamala Harris ran. That's a whole lot of people. 35 voter registration drives. Sometimes I wasn't planning, but I was trying to do it for Kamala Harris and for the other Democrats that we need to get in office. So, because mega is not for us, that is not for us.
Thank you so much, Senator Isom. I just remind folk that district was created as a result of Section 2 gave the NAACP several of the lawsuits the state legislative maps, and because they discriminated against Black voters here in DeSoto County, and that district was created a successful election. So it's incredibly important we continue to protect those districts, protect voting rights, to protect fair redistricting, and to pass policies and legislation would help prevent the rollback. So here talked about being afraid of. And so again, Jack wanted to a few
I also wanted to, in addition to our
Paul's here. Thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you to everyone here who has come out tonight. We've heard really incredible testimony, really important testimony from community members that were part of the public record. And so to close things out, I want to have the mic off to a community member here in DeSoto County who is going. Thank you so much.
Coming out tonight, here we do a but to ensure that we are always welcome back in the space that we occupy, I ask that we leave it better than that we found it. For all of my Girl Scouts here, so we do have. Please clean up your area and you leave out.
All right. Strong communities begin.
And create opportunities for future generations. Together, we will build a Mississippi where every voice is heard and every is represented.
Be informed, be engaged, and be the change. Please stand and repeat after me. Advocate, connect, action. You have received Action. Go act.